What's up, soldiers? Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. Always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. Today we're doing something my grandma used to make. Yo, she died, she was 104 years old. So this recipe, and she died about 15 years ago. This recipe is about 100 years old. No lie. Now you're gonna see traces of kitchery in here, and kitchery is we'll do that recipe in time to come. But today I'm making saltfish cookup. Trying to remember how my grandma used to do it because it's all going by taste and textures and all that right now. But you're gonna love this one, man. You're gonna love this one. Over 100 years old, I'm telling ya. What's up, soldiers? Don't forget to click subscribe. If you've already clicked subscribe, hit that bell notification thing. I want to all you missing out on the new videos, man. Come on, click. What I'm washing here, these are called Dasheen Bush leaves, the leaves of the Dasheen tree. Some of you may call it taro. And if you cannot get this, and this is what we use in the Southern Caribbean, and this is why you want to wash all the inside and the outside. This is what we use in the Southern Caribbean for making callaloo soup. So you see, I picked off the stem, picked off there, and then we're going to give this a good rinse. And that is basically, you want to make sure the leaves are all good though. But if you cannot source this, I would recommend getting regular spinach, not baby spinach, as baby spinach is maybe a bit too tender for this dish. I'm just going to go ahead here and go through these leaves. Like this one here, see that sort of rust spot there? We need to remove that and discard that. Now, I live in Canada. These are not fresh. These are probably 2 weeks old or something. And the other thing is, you can also use the stems in cooking as well. So what you would do is pull back on it, pull this back, discard that, pull that back, discard it. Same with all of it. And then you would break it into whatever size pieces that you want to use. Today I won't be using the stems though, but I will be using these leaves, and I'll show you how we'll chop it up in a second. But make sure you go through it. Like this one here, this has seen better days. This is gonna go into the garbage. Can't really complain though, because to get this here in Canada, I remember days gone by we couldn't even spell the word Dasheen Bush leaves in Canada, but now we're getting all this stuff live and direct, boy. One thing I would recommend when playing with these or handling these Dasheen Bush leaves, and all I'm doing is putting them all into a nice tight little bundle with the stem that we started off with there, because it has a sort of a residue to it, or a stain. You may want to either one, and the first bit that is going to go into the garbage, and all we're doing basically 1/4-inch ribbons. You may want to wear gloves or rub some vegetable oil all over your hands to prevent it from staining your fingers. And that is a little trick I would see my mom do when I was a kid on the islands. She would use some good old coconut oil, and there we go. Protect her hands at the same time. In my pot here, I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. If you wanted to use coconut oil, you can certainly use that. And I've got here 1 medium onion with a sort of a rough chop to it, or a rough dice. I've got 2 pimento peppers, no heat. That is all about flavor. If you cannot source that, don't stress too much. We've got 3 cloves, large cloves of garlic that I just smashed. Gonna give that a quick little stir. The heat is on low now, and I just want to sort of waken that up a bit before we continue. Next, I'm gonna add 2 bird's eye pepper, or what we call bird pepper, or Thai chilies. But what I'm going to do is, and I'm off camera, I'm just giving it a couple cuts. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I made a couple cuts just for that to release some of the heat. This dish is not meant to be overly spicy, but we still want just a gentle sort of kick to it. Nothing pronounced. And that is why we give them just a small cut, just to release some of that. Next, I'm going in with some fresh ground black pepper and some diced celery. leaves and everything. That's going to add some lovely flavor to everything. Give that another quick stir just to move around the garlic. We don't want the garlic burning. I have here 3/4 pounds of prepared salted cod, which means it was soaked in hot water, or you can boil it as well. Remove most of that salt and to sort of rehydrate it. Just going to give that a quick stir. And I use the boned salted cod, which means the bones will remove. A lot easier, but please, if you do get that, go through it to make sure there are no tiny little bones left back in there. I just went ahead and I turned up the heat to medium, and here's where we're going to go in with some yellow split peas. It's been washed and soaked for about an hour or so, and that is about 1.25 cups. You want to give that a stir, and this is going to be one of those awesome one-pot dish that everybody is just going to be digging into and asking for more. I have here a little bit of turmeric just to give everything a little bit of color and some flavor. Move that around as well. Now we're going to add the prepared Dasheen Bush to it. And as I said, any spinach would work in here. Even if you wanted to put some chopped kale will work as well too. Then we got some diced pumpkin. And to help everything cook, we're going to go in with some coconut milk. We will need some water as well too. In a minute. And just before I give everything a stir, I'm going to go in with my Caribbean green seasoning. You got to have that green seasoning in here. That's going to add all that herbal elements. I tell you, when I'm done with this dish here, boy, people begging you after to make this time and time again. Time for salt. And then give everything a good mixy mix and cover down the pot. It is important that the pot get covered so everything simmers and comes together. I will add 2 cups of water at this point as well, so keep that in mind, please. It's been going now for about 20 minutes after I added the water and brought it up to a boil. I can't remember how much water I told you all, but you will need about 2 cups of water until now. So we have that 1.5 cups of coconut milk and 2 cups of water. Brought it up to a boil, reduced it to a simmer, and that's what's happening there right now. Now it's time to add the rice. And that is 2 cups of parboiled long grain brown rice, which has been washed. And then we're going to go in with some okra, or okra. I know it as okra. You know, one of the things, I don't know if you guys are watching the Dasheen Bush leaf that I have in there, but in the Caribbean, that thing melts down and cooks nice and soft and disappears into the dish. But for some reason, in North America, when we get it here, that thing stand up like iron, boy. It doesn't cook down at all. But we need some water in there too. Give that a quick stir. Now the reason why I didn't go overly heavy with the salt at the start there, or I'm not going to even add any more salt, to be honest with you, it's because the salted cod that we started off there with, and we need water to cook that. So we're going to go in with a further 2 cups of water in there. The salted cod will have a lot of remaining salt in it, and we are trying to get this thing overly salty. Near the end, if you want, you can taste it and adjust it accordingly, but for now, just leave this alone. Bring this up to a boil. Don't stir it anymore. Make sure you give it a good stir at this point though, but don't stir it anymore after now, because we're trying to get it too much like pap. It's come up now to a bubble, so I'm going to reduce my heat all the way down to low, put the lid back on there and allow that to cook until the rice grains are nice and plump all the way through. Remember, try not to stir it. Just leave it as it is. Just leave it as it is. But back on lid. Yeah. It's been going now for about 17 minutes. This is where I would recommend you taste it and adjust the salt. I'm just going to give it one quick stir at this point here, because we really want to mix everything in. And you're paying attention to two things here now. One, the salt content, adjust it. And two, how tender you want the rice. Now I still feel this needs to be cooked just a little bit more, but the residual heat on this stove will organize that for me. I'm going to turn off the stove and let that sit for a good 10-15 minutes in the residual heat. The rice will suck in all that water there, all that remaining liquid, and it's going to be a nice plump. And you want it a bit wet. I know I've said before I am not team wet. I love a grainy, shelly rice, but in this case here, you really want it nice and moist. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. My take on a saltfish cook-up. All kind of niceness went in there, yeah? I still don't understand why the bhaji ain't cooking down though, boy. That thing getting me vexed.